everyone. Welcome to Lunchtime Topics. This is our weekly program from the Creative Coast featuring various business experts who share their knowledge with Coastal Georgia's entrepreneurial community. Today's featured business expert is Aysia Woods, who recently moved to Savannah by way of Washington, D.C., where she regularly organized conferences for 350 plus individuals and still organizes conferences. In 2015, she launched her company Events by AW, in which she serves as the principal corporate event consultant. And as an undergraduate of the George Washington University, Aysia has returned to her alma mater, and she is currently pursuing her master's in entrepreneurship and management leadership. So today's topic, Aysia will answer the question, how does one create and organize impactful events? We've been stuck in the pandemic for, I guess it's about a year now. And chances are, if you're here, you've made some major transitions with your events. I know here at the Creative Coast, we have as well. So you're probably looking for ways to engage your community and keep them invested in your mission and your work. And right now, there's no better way to do that than through a virtual event. So Aysia is specifically going to share the 4 pillars of creating impactful events, and that will apply to both virtual events and then in-person events beyond this pandemic. So these can be applied to both scenarios. So thank you, Aysia. We really appreciate you being here. We're excited for your talk, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for that really warm introduction. I'm thrilled to be here with you all today. As Kate mentioned, I'm a recent Savannah transplant, so I haven't had the chance in this virtual space to meet a lot of people in real life, and I'm just really grateful that the Creative Coast has been so welcoming, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all here today. So today we're talking the 4 pillars of crafting eventful programming, impactful event programming. If you see me tapping, it's because I'm looking at my notes on my phone because I couldn't get it both to show up on my screen, so bear with me there. If you feel so inclined, I would love if you have your camera on just so I can see your lovely faces and really connect with you. If not, that's fine too. We'll get to know each other in the chat. So let's just dive in. Oh, there we go. First off, I know these words are uncomfortable for everybody to hear. You're like, what the heck did I do already? Am I in trouble? You're a little bit nervous, not sure what's going on. Sometimes it causes a little bit of panic. So what's going on here really is I have a series of questions that I would love to pose your way. And I want you guys' honest feedback, you guys' honest response. Let me know in the chat or turn your audio on and just let's talk a little bit. So virtual dread. What are you thinking of when you see this image? This little meme here makes me laugh so much. I love seeing it on the internet. But I want to know how many of you guys have been feeling this way in this virtual space. Have you been overwhelmed? Have you been sitting there and being like, I am so bored. Your mind is bored. You can't focus. You're just exhausted. Have you ever been worried that you created an event that made people feel this way? Do you feel like you're alone in, the room, a virtual room of 500 people, and you're like, am I the only one that's bored here or something? I'm really curious. So let me know in the chat. I want to know who feels like they fall into this kind of group here and they're struggling a little bit. Put it in the chat. Let me know. I really want to hear from you. Anyone? Anyone? Well, let me see the chat here. Somebody said, I do, especially back in Zoom meetings. Yeah, I miss people. I do too. I think that contributes to the dread sometimes. You felt that way in Zoom meetings for work. Yes, I see that in the chat. Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard, right? We're all getting used to things. We're adjusting. I'm curious to know if any of you are business owners and you've been putting on some events that you've been intimidated by or intimidated planning them. Stress out about technology for events. Yeah, that's a really big one. I feel like I have created a lot of dread due to dead space. That's an interesting point too. Okay, I'm curious, when you're saying dead space, are you talking about the flow of the programming not working well? From an entrepreneur and work perspective, I'm embracing it because we did virtual before COVID. Oh, that's great. I do have virtual dread for personal events. Yes, the flow. Okay, go back on larger events. Yeah, this is really helpful. there are so many different ways that people have been kind of trying to navigate this space for the first time. Somebody said, we have put on several events and are always worried about encouraging participation. Yeah, that's a good part too, right? Because you don't get that natural instant reaction that you get in person. So sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating when you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know how this is being received or if my message is being received. That makes total sense. Yeah, this is great. Thank you for this feedback. I appreciate it. So let's go to the next one. Who's been feeling like this? I would love to know. You've been loving the virtual space. One, because difficult to gauge the audience, that's another one. You've been loving the virtual space because you've been able to join these events from the comfort of your couch. You're thriving. Maybe you just love seeing the innovation and the creativity go on within your industry. Maybe you found this to be a really great opportunity to network and attend events that you wouldn't typically, because now you have access to events that are all over the world, really. So I'd also love to know if anyone feels like they fall more in this boat, or you can fall somewhere in the middle, but I would love to know what you're liking. I like that we're reaching people outside our area. Yes, that's been really beneficial, especially for business owners. I wouldn't say I love it, but the introvert in me likes the ability to attend. Yes, I like that too. Opportunities for attendance near and far. Great opportunity to easily reach people outside of our territory. Absolutely, absolutely. And this has been the case for a lot of my clients. And actually, I think a lot of professionals have gotten a lot more work because so many business owners are realizing that, like, wow, now I have access to this whole other area of people that I wasn't able to access before. This is really, really helpful. And so whether you fall more in that dread side or the virtual bliss side, my hope is that if you fall on that virtual dread side at the moment, that you're going to learn some strategies to hopefully not feel like that anymore, to not feel like that when you're planning events, and to really grow and feel like you can be confident when you're organizing them. If you're in this virtual bliss side, I'm so happy for you and thrilled. And I hope that we can build upon that energy that you already have and learn some new strategies to keep the momentum going. Alrighty, so some quick context here. Scrolling down, some backstory, if you will. Obviously, as Kate said, so Events by W is a corporate event consultancy. We specialize in providing collaborative and one-stop shop event services for our clients. Obviously, right now, all this has been virtual. We've been working with different clients from a range of different industries. A lot of them are entrepreneurs, startups in the higher education space, magazines, creative leading companies. It kind of runs the gamut. Let me scroll my notes here a little bit. We've really become known for specializing in this specific area of strategically and creatively building programming that really speaks to our targets' mission and honors their business goals and values. It's been so much fun. And so to clarify, when I'm talking about programming, I'm talking about the literal, what are the actual activities happening during the event? So is there a keynote? Is there panel discussions going on here? Is it a game? Are there breakout sessions, networking, breaks that are creative and fun? So we really try to figure out how to create a way and a flow that makes sense for your business and the attendees as well. So a little bit about me and like how have I become this person that is so focused on event programming. I'll give you a quick background. I'm a creator by nature, entrepreneur by heart, and anthropologist by training. I have been working in the event space for the last 10 years now. And you might be like, what? This girl, how old is she? She can't be older than 30. And you're correct, I'm not. But I grew up in a family of avid entertainers and hosts. And so I've been helping my parents manage events for as long as I can remember. And I grew up in the Philadelphia area. Once I went to Washington, D.C. for school, and then my subsequent professional experience, worked for different museums, cultural institutions, magazines, higher education, higher universities. And always my favorite part of the job description was the event portion and the people gathering of it. I often like to call myself a professional people gatherer, not only because like a really nerdy play off of, the anthropological thought of hunter-gatherers, but also that's really just the essence of what I do to the core. So here we are, you guys, the 4 pillars. So we have here first, uniqueness, attendee state of mind, dynamism, change your world. I want these like sink in a little bit. What are your initial thoughts when you look at these? I want to know, like, are any of these particularly like, what does she even mean by that? Or like, never thought of that one. Let me know in the chat what you're most intrigued by so far, or what seems surprising maybe. Dynamism, yeah, that's probably one of my personal favorites to talk about. I hope you guys appreciate the uniqueness and the color combination there. I really tried to be creative and funky with that one. Wonderful. So the first one here, we have uniqueness. And Kate, also, if you could moderate the comments, that'd be great. I kind of moved away the chat for now. Let me move my notes here so I can see everyone. There we go. So first up, we have uniqueness. And so creating an experience that cannot be replicated. And so this is important because if you want your attendees to show up and to keep coming back for more, you have to make sure you're creating an experience that is not cookie cutter and that one that they could get from anywhere else, or a similar organization that can offer similar things, right? So there's a lot of different ways to do this. And so some of these questions I have to think about are questions that I typically pose to my own clients to help them start to think about what they have uniquely that they could weave into their programming. So for example, think about, what does your organization have or do that sets it apart from others in your industry? What is something only you can provide? And is there something that industry colleagues tend to compliment you or your organization on? And so usually when we start thinking about these questions and they start really digging deep, it becomes very evident as to what those unique things are. So for example, I'll give you some quick examples based off of Events by AW to really show you how high level you could go with these distinctions, or how literal, even if you're struggling with the more high level things. So for example, there's a picture of me up in the corner that's with me and a really wonderful author in Washington, DC. So one of the things that my clients have been known for, or have known to come to me for, is because my network is robust and I'm very proud of it. And so a lot of my clients can depend on me to secure speakers they need, collaborators, sponsors. And I know that's unique to me, right? A lot of event professionals simply work on the logistics, but I've done a really careful job of being able to also manage my network so I can provide that to my clients. That's something unique to me and my services. That's kind of a high level thing. Next, we have Give Butter. So Events by W is a verified Give Butter partner, another high level thing. Give Butter is a fundraising technology company, and they integrate with a lot of different event platforms to help different businesses fundraise. And if I have a client that is in the fundraising space, maybe they're a nonprofit, I can provide them access to a database of over 30,000 people to help promote their event. And that's something unique to me that I can offer. Those are higher level items. If you're struggling with thinking about what the higher level items that your organization provides uniquely, think about more you as a person. So for example, I'm a certified Myers-Briggs practitioner. If you guys are familiar with Myers-Briggs, it's a personality type assessment. So that allows me to not only proctor and teach that curriculum for my clients, but I can also just use that as part of my process of building the event. And that's unique to me. What could also be unique is just my background, right? So a lot of event professionals come in either with a marketing background or sales or design or something like that. Not a lot of them are coming in with an anthropology background. So sometimes I like to just be really thoughtful in my process, and that's unique to me. So really there can be a range of items that are unique to you, and make sure to weave that or build upon that in your program or your process, because nobody else can provide that the same way you'll be able to. Next, we have attendee state of mind. So walk in your attendee's shoes and provide what they need and value. Scrolling down for just a moment. So what I mean by this is I think even sometimes the best event professionals can forget to do this. You might get so excited about the idea that you're putting forward that sometimes you forget to even ask your audience what they need. Right. So what did I do at the beginning of this presentation? I take the time to ask you guys how you guys are experiencing things. And that allows me to hopefully address those topics, the pain points, the joy points throughout this presentation. If you're not sure, again, ask. You can do that via social media, via email. You can pick up the phone if you're really close to some of your audience members or some people in your community. Some questions, some common areas that businesses tend to think about is perhaps your audience values access to industry leaders. That's great. If so, make sure that you're finding really great keynote speakers, panelists. Maybe you're offering VIP attendees the chance to interact with these different speakers in a more intimate fireside chat basis. Make sure that you're offering them that access that they're looking for. Perhaps your audience is interested in networking opportunities amongst fellow attendees. So if that's the case, perhaps set up some breakout sessions. Maybe you want to host a happy hour beforehand. There's also a lot of really great event platforms that will actually strategically pair up and match different attendees together based on their interests. And like, if you guys have questions about specific event platforms, we can talk about that a little bit after. Do your attendees need to learn something specific? Are you teaching them something? Do they want to learn particular hard or soft skills to get ahead in their industry? Then maybe consider setting up your event as a workshop. Bring in an educator, a leader, make sure you have some really great engaging activities to make sure that lesson is absorbed. So we got that. Next, are you guys still with me? Take a moment, stretch it out a little bit, take a sip of water. I know I'm going to. I see you guys are taking notes, which is wonderful. Deep breath. Okay, we're ready to move on. So next we have dynamism. So an Events by AW golden rule is that every event needs to have at least 2 activities with contrasting energies. This is very important, you guys. So I'm gonna say it again. Every event needs to have at least 2 activities with contrasting energies. And this is so important. So for example, in this experience that we're having together right now, I started off the presentation kind of lighthearted, funny, with some memes, whatever. I hope you guys felt welcomed and it was easy, chatty, breezy, before we dove into what the first pillars were, and that required a little bit more focus, a little bit more brain power. What did we do before this? Set up a little break. I hope that allowed you to just like refresh, have a smile, and then you're ready to keep going. And why this is so important is that maintaining dynamic programming helps your attendees remain engaged on the valuable content that you've worked hard to create. There is nothing worse than getting bored in the virtual space. And I found personally, even as an attendee at events, you have a smaller window to really keep people engaged and looped in. So you want to make sure that you're giving them value and also you're keeping things exciting so that they can remain focused and energized and excited. So some real life examples. On the left side here, we actually have one of my favorite virtual events that I've done. This was a 1-day long virtual conference called the Belonging Conference, or BCon. And it was a virtual conference surrounding, with the purpose of uniting and educating diversity and inclusion professionals or those interested, and helping them fine tune their practice. Like I said, it was a full day long virtual conference. So 9 to 5 is a long time to be sitting in front of your computer. So me and my client made sure to break that day up and make it as dynamic as possible. The morning started off with a brunch. Like, who thinks about doing that when you're thinking about studying diversity and inclusion? You imagine something kind of heavy and somber and serious, which it is. But we wanted to make sure that people would remain engaged. So it started off with a brunch in the morning and a cooking demo with a celebrity chef, which was amazing. Moved on to the keynote address. After that, there were some breakout sessions. Then there was a break where people had the option to join a room with either a DJ or a fitness instructor. Then there was another talk, and then we ended off the day with like a virtual happy hour type thing. So by the end of the day, we had kept all think there were 125 participants for the whole day, and they all stayed on for the whole day. And so for a virtual event, that was a really big accomplishment. On the right side here is one of the last events I did, sadly, in person when I was still based in Washington, D.C. And that was a book launch for a client of mine. She's an author and a therapist. And she was like, I want to create an event that's not going to be just like your standard run-of-the-mill book reading, because some of those can be a little bit slow. So what we did was we came up with some really clever icebreakers, some activities that people could play like with other attendees there. A lot of the attendees showed up on their own and by themselves. So we made sure that we wanted to do our best to make sure that they're meeting each other and engaged. And that just really kept the spirits up. And that event actually extended about an hour past event closing, but that was just because people were so excited and having a really good time. All this to show it's really important to shake things up. And then finally here, we have change your world. And so this might sound a little corny. It is a little corny, but it's extremely important. And so what I mean by this is ensure there's a clear call to action that advances your mission. And so I think sometimes this is another one that can be forgotten, but this is really where the impact, creating an impactful experience comes to play, right? Because as a business owner or professional or wherever you're creating your events, you need to make sure that your event is not just being hosted just because, but also because you are driving your attendees towards helping you achieve a particular business goal. So whether that business goal is maybe you need people to sign up for your email list to stay engaged, maybe that's a priority. Maybe it's brand awareness and you want people simply to follow you on all your social channels. Maybe the goal is to purchase this product, this new product in this launch, and if they purchase today, they get a discount. It can be a variety of whatever your business goals are, but make sure that through your programming, you are specific, you are telling people what to do. They're there because they want to help and they want to be guided, and they're interested and intrigued. So don't be afraid to really ask them exactly what you're needing. So whatever your method of changing the world is, just make sure it's front and center throughout your programming. So this was all a really quick run through of what the 4 main pillars are. I have found that in my experience, if you really focus and hone on to each one of these aspects, it's going to be a knockout out of the park every single time. I could go a lot deeper into all of these, but I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. This has been wonderful. There's also, I have some like handles if you want to stay in contact on the screen. If you want to talk more about events, would love to. If you want to tell a new Savannah transplant where a good place is to eat, please also let me know that as well. So I think I'm gonna stop there and see if there are any questions or comments that I might have missed.
Can we come off mute?
Oh yes, absolutely. Feel free to mute. I also want to hear where you guys are from, what you're looking for, and what you guys are doing.
I'm gonna see if somebody has a question. I do have a question, but if anybody has a question and wants to go first, go for it.
Hey, it's Elby. How are you doing today?
Hi, Alvi. Nice to meet you in person.
Yes,
Kind of.
I know. Likewise. So I had a quick question. If I wanted to host an event and my purpose is to continue with building momentum for my company, and I wanted it to be a digital, say I wanted to do like a digital vendors event, I guess, and people are so tired of Zoom, right? People are so burnt out with this Zoom thing. What is a good platform to use? And like, what are the 2 differentiators, the highs and the lows, or the contrasting things that we could do, I guess, that would, bring in people, but also make it unique and interesting?
Yeah. Before I answer, could you tell me more about the business? So you're saying a vendor. Can you tell me more?
Yeah. So I'm the founder of the Culturist Union, and right now we are opening up the only Black-owned coffee house here in Savannah. And one of our drivers is we sell local Black artisan products. And so one of the things that we do is we host Black vendor markets. And it would be really cool to do a digital market in lieu of, us opening or, before we open. And so we've done it before. We've done it on Instagram and it was pretty cool, but I would really like to be able to expand the market reach of our local artisans and be able to, kind of make it a party more so than just, like a virtual Etsy.
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. So I personally recommend using Hopin. I don't know if you guys have heard of Hopin, but that's actually the event platform that I hosted that virtual conference on. It's wonderful because it actually mimics how an in-person conference would be, in the fact that attendees log in, there's a reception area, then there's a main stage, then there's an expo, and then there's breakout rooms. So it's
cool.
clever in the way it does that, but in the in the expo area, you can assign expo booths to different vendors. And then they'll have to, go into the email, accept, log in, but then they have total control over what their video they're showing. They can talk, they can chat, and the attendees of the event can literally pop into the different expo rooms and learn about all the different vendors. You could also, if you wanted to, right, in the spirit of keeping things dynamic, say if this is like a few hours long event, maybe on the main stage, maybe a large portion of the event will be something else. Maybe it's you talking and just introducing everybody. So there's a lot of versatility that you can use on Hopin, and that's what I would personally recommend looking into.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I will do. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Aysia, there's a question in the comments or the chat box. Jasmine wants to know, basically, it sounds like, are there any other resources that you offer on your blog or your website that can help guide people's events now and in the future?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad she asked that question. I will actually pop a link into the chat now. In the next few months, very shortly, I'm actually releasing a digital product, and it's called the Virtual Guide to Event Creation from Start to Finish. So for anybody who is looking for assistance with creating events, it will be for you, absolutely. And right now we're taking signups for the wait list. And if you sign up, you'll be among the first to know and also get 10% off that entire bundle, which will be full of a full-length ebook, templates, email guides, cheat sheets, everything you need to know, logistics all the way through self-care to how to show up on screen and on camera as your best virtual host. So I will type that. Let me stop sharing my screen.
We can include that link when we post your video too, if you want.
Wonderful. Let me type it in here. All right, so you see in the chat now, I included the link. So if you guys go there and sign up, you will have literally everything you need to know within the next month and a half or so.
Cool. So
go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. So one thing that we've been doing, we've hosted one event, our She Hustles event, that was our largest and probably longest. So we had, we usually have like a panel discussion and a keynote speaker at our in-person event. And then we have food and drinks and sometimes things like we had someone taking photos or headshots and just different little features. Nobody sells anything there. That's not kind of our goal, but it's more so to celebrate women entrepreneurs and leaders. So all that to say, that was our biggest event, and we like in person better because we want as many attendees as possible, and we had a 50% cutoff in attendees for the virtual event, and we're assuming because it was virtual. So we've decided we really want to keep all of our virtual events smaller from that purpose, no more than probably a 50-person event, because then you just start losing people.
Yeah.
So for these lunchtime topics, for example, these are, we purposely have said we want them to be quick, between 12 and 1 when people can pop on their lunch break. And we let speakers come on and they lead like you, right? So do you have any recommendations? Because obviously we've got you present, and then we have the Q&A session for things that we can do to spice it up a little bit. Because sometimes it's hard telling the person who's coming on and donating their time to say hey, we need you to do this. Have you ever had experience with leading things like this online?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that you guys could do is, this is such a great opportunity. I'm sure everybody here does not know each other here. So I think what would be wonderful is creating this opportunity for also for people to connect on here. So like maybe it's a 30-minute person leading the conversation, maybe then it's 15 of Q&A, and then maybe it's 15 at the beginning or the end for the people here on this call to just introduce each other and get to know each other there. So I think maybe just like adding that other element would be a nice idea and still quick and snippy. Um, yeah, I mean, that could take, that could take things in any kind of any way.
Yeah,
So I think
sure.
that would be what I would do.
Yeah, we have breakout room settings, so maybe we could even do something like that if they're, big enough. So
Yeah, you
that's
could do breakout room settings. Yeah, there are lots of ideas. We could talk about it offline if we still want to explore this. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Sure. Elby says, bring back 1 million cups. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to, but that was it was a lot. It was a lot. We do need to bring it back, but and eventually I think we will, just not in the near future with all this. So
Yeah. Does anyone else have any particular questions? Yeah.
Yes, hi Asia, and thank you for your presentation today. My name is Antoine Smoke, and I work with World Trade Center Savannah as the Programs and Community Development Coordinator. So basically, I plan and execute our global education programs here. And my question for you is, how does one sort of control the virtual platform? For instance, when we're doing introductions, that can get pretty lengthy, and you can get in the weeds a little bit. And so how do you control that, but as well as use that as an opportunity to network, since that component of an event isn't there anymore? So how to control that portion and still connect?
Yes, this is such a good question, Antoine. I'm glad you asked this. So a two-parters. The first one is, and this is something I actually talk about in the ebook, but there's a concept that I love called generous authority. And this is not my own term. This is a term that's actually what is her name? Priya Parker, who is a wonderful event strategist, conflict resolutionist, actually, and facilitator, and she works like with the UN, etc. And she wrote a really wonderful book called The Art of Gathering that I highly recommend all of you read if you're interested in the event space or you're just a community organizer. But she really talks about this concept of generous authority. And what that means is, as the event host, you're doing your attendees a service and you're being gracious and kind to them by providing your generous and graceful authority. And so what that means is telling them exactly what's going on in the event, right? And that will be appreciated, because also as an attendee, sometimes it can be awkward, right? If you get onto an event, you're like, I don't really know, like, should I have my camera on? Should it be off? Like, there's a DJ, like, are we supposed to be watching that? Like, it's just so many different factors that could happen at the same time. So really, as the event host, it's so important to be very clear about what's going on. So for example, introductions, I absolutely know what you mean. You could have a panel and be like, okay, like, I would love all of you to introduce yourselves. And one person takes 10 minutes, and then the next person says a one-liner that doesn't even really captivate their essence of the work they do. So you just really have to, it is more work on your end to prepare for that. So either you're going to prepare their intros and you're going to read it, or you're going to tell them ahead of time, everybody is going to prepare 3 sentences so they know exactly what's expected of them. So the generous authority is a little bit more work on the host side, but really it's greatly appreciated in the overall experience. And from the attendee perspective, it just causes a lot more of a relaxing experience, right? Because they don't have to think. Everything's easy. And that's always the goal as a host, even if an event is in person, right? You want to make sure that people are just welcomed and there to enjoy. The second part of your question, in terms of finding ways to be able to facilitate networking, again, I'm just like a Hopin advocate at this point because I've used it so many times. But there are other platforms as well that have been doing this sort of thing. But for example, on Hopin, you can actually be very specific with how you allow people to network. So there's a little networking icon. People can click it, and then it'll actually randomly pair you with somebody, like another attendee in the event. and you guys will be matched for a preset amount of time that you can set up. It could be like 30 seconds or 5 minutes, and like randomized networking that kind of way. So there are some really cool like platforms that allow some networking. If you weren't thinking of something that complicated, you could also just set up perhaps maybe the day before a large event, or maybe the first portion or the after portion, set up a happy hour. I think those are always appreciated. I love doing them. And I think, you know, it's just people expect it nowadays. And it's really a nice opportunity to get to know people. The thing again in the happy hour is provide that generous authority. And so don't just click start and just let people start chatting randomly, right? Because then it's like, what are you really doing here, guys? But start the happy hour and say like, hey, I'm so happy we're here right now. This is what we're gonna do, guys. Let's have 2 people introduce each other, and that, like, you know, come up with some kind of routine, some kind of flow that works within the happy hour time. So that was a long-winded answer to your question, but I hope that helps. Anyone else? Any questions? Even if not particular questions, I would love to know, like Tina, Mamadou would love to know what you guys do.
I got a question here. Name is Mamadou, with Edward Jones down here in Richmond Hill.
Hi.
Question. Nice to meet you. Question I have is, so typically when we're having these networking events, or, you know, I'm hosting, let's say, client family meetings, right? And we're trying to educate them a little bit more on the things that we do. So do you just ask them basically, you know, like the state of mind that they're in, like, you know, how's everyone feeling, that kind of thing? How does that normally work out?
Wait, can you ask that one more time? I'm sorry, my computer.
So whenever you, like, you say, for your state of mind slide, you basically just says, you know, ask that, you know, the audience how they're currently feeling. How does that normally turn out? Because I tried to do that a couple of times, and it was like a awkward, silent, everyone unmuted, everyone re-unmuted. How does that normally go about?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the virtual space is you honestly just have to lean into the discomfort sometimes. That's just the nature of how it is, but don't get discouraged by that. So that's one option, right? You can ask straight up front and try to be as engaging as possible. Sometimes people are going to be in the mood, and sometimes they're not. That's just the state of things, and you just have to be okay with that and roll with the punches. But I don't always mean in the moment. So for example, if you are planning an event, and it's being planned for a month out, and you know who you're inviting, etc. If you have a social media you use, or you have these people on your email listserv, send them an email and say like, hey, I'm planning this event for this time. It's going to be focused on this subject. I would love to know what within this subject would specifically be helpful to you, or what related to X, Y, and Z would be important, beneficial to you at the moment. So it doesn't have to be in the moment. Again, like I said, you can ask them beforehand and just have them help you build the programming, because that also takes the load off yourself, right? If you can give people exactly what they need, allow them to do that.
Gotcha. Definitely appreciate that, because that's always been, you know, a big awkward silence kind of thing. And typically when I do like the online seminars for families, it's just that awkward silence where everyone is just glossing over and you're clicking through slides, and I'm just like, ooh, I probably need to start to figure out what to say. But I definitely appreciate the presentation. It gives me a lot of different things to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Valerie. I think you're on mute right now.
You are absolutely right. I have a question for you. I am a pastor, and I'm new to the area pretty much, and we are starting, it's a brand new church, so it hasn't been in existence prior to COVID. So yeah, planting during COVID, not really well prepared for what changed on us here. But anyway, the question is, we've been doing Zoom rooms so that we can have an opportunity for people to have community, because a lot of churches are not open right now. So people come in, but it's like they come in expecting to hear a sermon. For me, those rooms, I really want them to be interactive, engaging, and I do a message on Sunday morning that's the content piece that's put on live platforms. So when they come in the room, I'm not there to preach a sermon. I'm there to talk to them. I want to find out, how they're doing. I want to find out maybe whether they, what they gathered from the message that was put out. And so I really want it to be about the people coming in the room, not about me giving more information. How do I set that tone?
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations. This is a wonderful feat you're working on. So that's great. I think this is going to go back to the generous authority thing. So you're going to have to take some time and really think about how you can create that atmosphere for people and how you can get them to think in the way that you're thinking of the event is going to flow. So for example, and like think about those 4 pillars, right? And I think that will also help shape your way of structuring it. But I think you're going to have to show up on the Zoom or in the breakout session or wherever you are, and you're going to have to walk people through, like give them some sort of prompt. And you're going to have to be very specific. Say, okay, let's start off the conversation with talking about X, Y, and Z. I'll volunteer to go first. This is what I think about this topic. We'll go around the room, the virtual room clockwise, and I would love to hear from each of you and just give me a minute of your time, a minute of your idea on this subject, right? So you're gonna kind of have to like handhold people a little bit to walk them through, to get them chatting at the beginning. And I find that often a lot of the times in these virtual events is that people are just kind of like waiting for others to make the first move, really, right? They're seeing like what the attitude and what the energy of everyone else is before they pitch in. Could be just like a little bit of a self-conscious thing or a shyness thing, but that's just how it tends to go. So if you break the ice by you starting off and kind of putting someone on the spot really and saying like, okay, let's start with you and move around the room. And then I think the conversation can start flowing in an organic way. And then maybe if these are repeat events, people will start to get the hang of the flow, right? So they're showing up, knowing what to expect, knowing how the conversation goes. And then so any newcomers joining the event will also quickly be able to see what's expected of them and how to prepare and get ready for that kind of conversation.
Okay. And one other thing, I feel like I need to reach out to you and hire you.
Yes, I'm for hire.
I think a lot of the thing too is promoting that in advance, because a lot of people don't come in because they think, oh, it's going to be another sermon, but that's not what it's all about. How do you market that type of situation?
Yeah. So in terms of marketing, I think that's also very different now in the virtual world, and that you have to be very specific and clear of what unique and special is going to be happening during this event. So you're going to have to utilize social media or email listserv or whatever it is. Even if you have a strong word of mouth community, that's fine too. We're just going to have to get very clear about what's happening and give people an enticing reason to join. So you're going to have to do some serious wordsmithing. It's going to take a little bit more than join this event at this day, because that's not enough for people these days. So it's got to be more like, if you are looking for this kind of feeling, if you're looking for this kind of community, join this event and whatever. But you're going to have to really pull to people's heartstrings and kind of pull them in that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Thank you guys for joining. I see Chrissy, Elizabeth, if you have any questions, just unmute yourselves. Happy to chat, or even just to learn about what you guys do or how the event world has been treating you.
Well, I'm Liz, and I work for the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. Mm-hmm. So most of what we do is continuing education classes. Mm-hmm. And have all moved to virtual right now. And, due to the CARES Act, we were able to provide these at no cost for the past year, but that is about to change. Mm. And so my concern is engaging people to want to pay for a virtual event when there is so much out there that is, for no cost. We had planned on doing a large 2-day business conference last year that was canceled, and of course isn't going to happen again this year. And we did look at some virtual platforms and just decided that we weren't prepared to do that I mean, learning Zoom has been quite enough.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, my biggest thing is trying to, I guess, find things engaging enough to make people want to spend money on a webinar when they're used to coming and sitting in our classes and being as engaging and still being the expert in the room while you're having technical difficulties on your computer, not looking like the expert in the room anymore. So it's definitely a challenge in just trying to get as much information as I can to do a better job at it.
Yeah, well, great. You're here now, so you're learning. So that's the first step. You're totally right in regards to, like, sometimes the virtual space can be a little bit intimidating, like if you feel flustered by the technology. But I've actually found that really people are very forgiving right now. Like, all of us are living through such wild situations that they know you're human. They know all of us are working from home right now and just trying to navigate and do the best we can. So I find that if you just speak clearly and you're like, I apologize for the tech issues, make some jokes about it, people understand. People have experienced it themselves, and that in no way discredits your expertise in what you're teaching. So don't even worry about that. In terms of the engagement, like, I think that's just kind of the nature of things at the moment. People are exhausted. But I think what's most important, and I always remember this even for my in-person events, but it makes sense with the virtual ones as well, is that whoever is showing up really wants to be there. So don't even focus really on who's not there and the numbers, but just focus on still providing a quality experience for the people who are there, because that's going to mean a lot to them. And naturally, they will share whatever their experience was with their friends and their community. So really just remain focused on the ones who are showing up, because you're impacting them, and that's important.